Eleanor Grayson was not a woman easily forgotten. At 78, she had a regal posture, silvery hair pinned in perfect coils, and a voice that could hush a room with a single sentence. Yet in the quiet town of Elmridge, she felt increasingly invisible. Widowed for over a decade, Eleanor lived in a modest cottage near the edge of town, where ivy climbed the stone walls and birds nested in the shutters. Her days passed in rituals: tea at 7, a walk through Marigold Park at 10, and reading by the fire after lunch. It was peaceful, even lovely, but sometimes too quiet, like a song missing its last note. One crisp autumn morning, Eleanor passed the old municipal library. She hadn't been inside in years. The tall oak doors were slightly ajar, and curiosity tugged at her sleeve. Inside, it smelled of dust and stories. Rows of forgotten shelves stood like sentinels. Eleanor wandered among them until she reached the far corner, where a handwritten sign read, "The Library of Forgotten Things, Memories, Moments and Might-Have-Beens." She blinked. That wasn't there before. The section was hidden behind a curtain of faded blue velvet. With a glance around and a shrug, she pushed it aside. Inside, it was unlike any library she'd ever seen. Instead of books, there were drawers. Hundreds of small wooden drawers labeled in elegant cursive: "First Dance," "A Lost Glove," "Rainy Tuesdays," "Unsent Letters," "Smiles Never Returned," and curiously, "Things We Meant to Say." She opened one at random: "Unsent Letters." Inside was a yellowed envelope addressed in beautiful handwriting, "To Thomas, the one I never stopped loving." She didn't read the letter inside. That felt like prying. As she looked around, a woman emerged from the shadows. She was about Eleanor's age, with soft eyes and an old wool cardigan. "You found the collection," the woman said. "I wasn't sure it was open." "It's always open." The woman smiled, "but only to those who remember." Remember what? Anything. Everything. Her name was June. She was the keeper of this peculiar part of the library. Each drawer, she explained, holds a fragment of someone's forgotten past, small things with big weight. Eleanor stayed all morning, leafing through drawers of chalk drawings, dance cards, buttons from old coats. There was a drawer labeled "The Sound of Your Father's Whistle," and another simply named "The Smell of Rain on New Books." Each artifact unlocked something inside her, memories she didn't know she had. She came back the next day, and the next. It became her new ritual. She and June talked endlessly, about life, about people they missed, about the small joys of knowing someone long enough to see their habits change. Eleanor learned that June had worked there nearly 40 years, though she never appeared in staff directories. "No one remembers the librarians," June would laugh, "but we remember them." One afternoon, Eleanor opened a drawer titled "Missed Chances." Inside, she found a small photo of herself and a man, taken at a dance in 1963. She gasped. It was Gerald Harper, her first love, her almost something. "How did this get here?" she whispered. June smiled. "It came back, as they all do. I haven't thought about Gerald in decades." "Not true," June replied. "You've just chosen not to say his name aloud." Eleanor ran her fingers over the photo. The memory returned like a breeze, a spring formal. The smell of his cologne. The way they danced to "Moon River" under paper lanterns. "We were young, foolish," she said. "I broke it off before he left for the Navy. I didn't want to wait." June said nothing. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. Memories stirred. What else had she forgotten? Or pushed away? The next morning, Eleanor brought something to donate. It was a single page from a journal. A note she'd written but never mailed: "Dear Gerald, if I said I didn't think of you today, I'd be lying." She handed it to June, who filed it silently in Things We Meant to Say. Weeks passed. Winter crept in. Eleanor noticed that the drawers were slowly changing. Some were emptying. Others gained new labels: late blooms, unexpected friendships, second chances. One drawer caught her attention: letters that found their way eventually. She opened it and found a sealed envelope. Her name was on it. She froze. The letter was written in careful script. "Dear Eleanor, I came back to Elmridge in 1975. I thought I might find you. But I heard you'd married and I didn't want to interfere. Still, I kept the dance photo. You looked radiant. I never stopped hoping you were happy. Yours always, Gerald." Tears came before she could stop them. She clutched the letter to her chest. Then she laughed, full and unguarded. "Gerald Harper," she said aloud. "You old fool." That week, she asked June if the library had a phone directory. "We don't," June replied, "but the town hall might." So Eleanor made her way to town hall for the first time in years. There, in the local address book, was a listing. Gerald Harper, Rosewood Retirement Village. Her heart thumped like it hadn't in years. It took her a few days to muster the courage. But she eventually called. A kind receptionist informed her that Mr. Harper was very much alive and currently leading a poetry club on Tuesday afternoons. Would you like to leave a message? She did more than that. She went in person. He was in the garden when she arrived, pruning roses with careful precision. She recognized him instantly. The same posture, the same intent gaze, only now with white hair and a weathered gentleness. Gerald, she said softly. He turned, eyes squinting in the sun, and blinked. Eleanor? She smiled. He dropped his clippers. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing. About the years in between. The mistakes, the loves, the lives lived. He showed her a scrapbook. There, tucked neatly in the corner, was that same dance photo. I never let go of it, he said. I always wondered what might have been. She reached across the table, took his hand. Well, she said, we're not quite out of time. They began meeting every Tuesday. Sometimes at the retirement village. Sometimes back at the library of forgotten things. Gerald was stunned by it, the drawers. The memories. The uncanny feeling that something larger than coincidence was at work. June, as always, offered tea and quiet understanding. By spring, Eleanor felt something she hadn't in years, purpose. She proposed an idea to June. What if we open the collection to others? Let people find their own forgotten things? June considered. Would you help me manage it? With pleasure. Eleanor smiled. So they did. They created an exhibit in the main wing. Eleanor wrote introductions for each drawer. Gerald added poetry, small handwritten notes beside each memory. Soon, townspeople began to visit. Children brought trinkets. Teenagers scribbled dreams and tucked them into drawers. Older folks wept at buttons that reminded them of coats long gone, of hands once held. The Library of Forgotten Things became a place of healing, not just for memory, but for connection. One day, a young woman found a cassette tape labeled Your Mother's Lullaby. She brought it to the front desk. Tears streaming. That's her voice, she whispered. She passed when I was 5. Eleanor held her hand. She found her way back to you. Years passed. The drawers multiplied. Eleanor and Gerald grew slower but never stopped working. June was always there, unchanged. Timeless in a way that no one questioned. One afternoon, Eleanor asked, June, how is it that you've never aged? June smiled. Perhaps I'm part of the library. Or perhaps I'm just well preserved. They all laughed. In time, Gerald moved in with Eleanor. Her little cottage welcomed his books, his sweaters, his laughter. He tended the garden. She baked again. They argued playfully over crossword puzzles and who made the better tea. Life, Eleanor realized, wasn't about holding on to every moment. It was about letting some things rest, knowing they might return. Changed but still yours. And sometimes, the things you forget are just waiting to be found again. Blank, _, blank. Some stories do not end. They simply turn the page.